Donald Trump is a petty, petty man. I think most of us know this already, and I think even if conservatives were honest with themselves, I think that they would probably admit that he's a petty man as well. If you're not sufficiently loyal to him, it's likely that he's going to come after you with everything he's got. If you criticize the man, you best believe that you're going to be thrown out of the MAGA movement. In fact, let's go ahead and look at some of this behavior that he is currently engaged in. Even though he is in a tight race to become president in 2024, he is spending much of his time attacking other Republicans. This is absolutely insane to me. Ever since the momentum has shifted to Kamala Harris's favor, Donald Trump is just melting down a little bit more. He is a bit more undisciplined, and I think this is proof of that. But let's go ahead and look at what he is doing now.
Trump is now endorsing not one, but two different Republicans in a Washington state congressional race. Why? Because he wants to defeat another Republican, Congressman Dan Newhouse, because Newhouse voted to impeach him for inciting the January 6th Capitol riot. Now, just a reminder, Donald Trump is running to be president again. He is in a tight race with Kamala Harris, as we've been talking about. You would think he might be focused on that, right? But instead, he is spending a lot of time and energy attacking fellow Republicans. Like this weekend when he called for a purge of the Republican Party and attacked the former Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Geoff Duncan, who has endorsed Harris. And just a few hours later, at a rally in Georgia, Trump repeatedly attacked the state's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and the Republican governor, who's very popular, Brian Kemp, who both refused to go along with Trump's lie that he won the election in Georgia in 2020.
Donald Trump has been purging people out of the Republican Party ever since he came on the political scene in 2015. He has completely upended the way that the Republicans do business. And I think that puts a lot of conservatives in a tough space. I'm not giving the elected ones a pass. I definitely think they should be speaking out against Trump. And they don't get a pass for falling in line and still following Trump. But I do think there are many, many conservatives out there who are afraid to step out of line and criticize Donald Trump or not support him because they might not feel like they have another place to go. That's why I think it is super important for the Kamala Harris campaign to take this seriously. I got a little annoyed by the Biden campaign because I didn't feel like they were pursuing these pro-democracy conservatives aggressively enough. But Kamala Harris has just launched Republicans for Harris. She is taking this seriously. And I think it is super important that we prove that we are a big tent party and make sure that these pro-democracy conservatives have a place to come to and they can vote against the anti-democracy candidate. So let's go ahead and listen to Adam Kinzinger talk about why he is supporting this Republicans for Harris movement.
Today, you announced you are endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for president, and you joined a number of fellow Republicans to kick off Republicans for Harris. Tell us why.
Well, I mean, it's really easy. Look, if you're a conservative, a real conservative that believes in things like the Constitution, the principles this country was founded on, I mean, you can disagree with Kamala Harris on policy issues, but really the threat that's really near to us is, does democracy survive? And I don't mean that like esoterically or to be like dramatic, but when you think of the last election and the fact that Donald Trump convinced a significant amount of the country that trusted him, that put their faith in him, that an election was stolen when it wasn't stolen. When you convince people that the system doesn't work and that your voice isn't heard, you do real damage to self-governance. It's really hard to self-govern if a significant amount of the country believes that their voice isn't heard, their vote doesn't count. So
I think Adam Kinzinger is 100% correct here. Donald Trump tried to overthrow the election results or overturn the election results in 2020. He had a plan to submit fake electors in a whole bunch of swing states, and then he gathered a mob who turned violent at the Capitol on January 6th to try to stop the certification of the vote, all based on this lie that he had somehow been defrauded out of winning the 2020 election. This is un-American. This is not how we do business here in the United States. And I think there are a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservatives out there who look at that and want nothing to do with it. But they're not given the permission structure. They don't feel comfortable voting for a Democrat. So I think it is super important that people like Adam Kinzinger are getting out there and making the case for Republicans for Harris. We also have Joe Walsh, who is a ultra-conservative dude. He was a Tea Party member. He's also going to be out there on the campaign trail trying to peel off some of these conservatives and Republicans, trying to let them know that the Kamala Harris campaign is the place for you. Even though we might not agree on a whole bunch of policy, probably very little policy we agree on, but there is still a place for you in this pro-democracy coalition. Let's go ahead and listen to Joe Walsh speak on that.
Look, what we want to do is give Republicans around this country, especially in the battleground states, the courage to come out and say we're better than Donald Trump. We know there are a lot of Republicans in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania who don't want to support Trump. They're afraid because, Jen, as you know, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure locally. And when you publicly oppose Trump as a Republican, you pretty much end your career as a Republican. That's a scary thing. You talked about how the party has become a cult. He's already purged people who are not obedient to him. What we're going to do this campaign is we're going to get out there and tell Republicans all throughout this country that we're better. You're better than Trump. And doggone it, support Kamala Harris, the only person who can keep this guy out of the White House.
I love this messaging. I think it is super important for the Harris campaign to start picking up these voters. I think there is a large portion of Republicans, or a decent number of them, who don't support Trump. But like Joe Walsh said, they don't feel comfortable stepping out and publicly opposing him, whether you're an elected official or just a regular voter. It is uncomfortable to step out of line with the leader of your party. But unfortunately, Trump is an authoritarian. And if you step out of line, it's going to feel like the whole party or the whole MAGA movement is coming down on you. And that is scary for some people. So I think it is absolutely important for these Republicans to get out there, these principled conservatives to get out there and start making the case for joining this pro-democracy coalition. We even have Geoff Duncan, the former lieutenant governor from Georgia, making the same case. Republicans for Harris. Let's go ahead and check out what he had to say.
Well, I think the biggest go-to excuse for a lot of Republicans, tens of millions of Republicans like me that are just completely done with Donald Trump, we see through his thin layers, was the fact that Joe Biden was elderly. And we've now eliminated that. We've got a 59-year-old energetic, smart woman that is ready to rock and roll. And for me, I think the most important thing we can do is give air cover for Republicans all across the country to say, look, just because you're going to vote for Kamala Harris doesn't mean you're going to become a Democrat. It just means you're going to do the right thing.
Just means you're going to do the right thing. We already know that Trump has authoritarian ambitions. He talks about retribution, revenge, using the DOJ to go after his political opponents, rolling up power, purging a whole bunch of people from the federal government so they can be replaced with Trump loyalists. These are not American ideas. These are un-American. These are anti-American ideas. Why do you think Donald Trump spends so much time speaking so fondly of authoritarians across the world? Why does he love Putin so much? Why does he love Xi Jinping so much? Or Kim Jong-un? Do you ever hear him speaking fondly of our allies, our elected officials? No. He wants to be the strongman, the authoritarian, the dictator ruler of America. But that is not the type of system we have here. So Donald Trump needs to take a hike. Now, we've listened to mostly people who've already been kicked out of the party for going against Donald Trump, but there is the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, who is coming out, John Giles. He's also getting behind this Republicans for Harris movement. He understands that Trump is a threat to this nation. So let's go ahead and listen to him talk about that for a second.
And I think the time has come for us as Arizona Republicans to admit the obvious and to start saying the quiet part out loud, which is that our party's nominee is not qualified for office and that we need to vote for the adult in the room, and that is Kamala Harris.
It is time to put partisan loyalties aside and vote for the leadership that will truly represent the people we want to be in the eyes of the world. Character matters.
Character absolutely does matter. I did a video about this last week where I question where all the character went in the Republican Party. How is it that the conservatives can support a man like Donald Trump, who has absolutely no character? He is a 34-time convicted felon. He has been found liable for sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. He's been ordered to pay her more than $80 million because he continued to defame her. He ran universities that end up scamming people. Donald Trump is America's biggest con man. He doesn't have any character. He is not the type of leader that America should want to elect. We are a liberal democracy. There are so many things that America can be proud of, but Donald Trump definitely is not one of them. I think it is super important for the Harris campaign to build a movement, to build some excitement around this Republicans for Harris coalition. I'm super excited to see these Republicans get out there on the campaign trail and make the case for voting for Kamala Harris, the only pro-democracy candidate for the 2024 race. Like it or not, these are our two choices. There's Kamala Harris and there's Donald Trump. And only one of them believes in the liberal democracy that is the United States of America. So I'm just super happy to see this. I'm glad that the Harris campaign is taking this seriously and giving a space for all of these principled conservatives, giving them a space to come join a pro-democracy coalition. So let's make sure we're out there doing the work and making sure that Kamala Harris is elected this November. So that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to see Donald Trump melt down as he's attacking Georgia conservatives, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.